Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Tonight, the emergency shelter to help displaced residents is closing in a matter of days. Plus, a suspect at large. Police are looking for a man described as armed and dangerous, wanted for first-degree murder. Windsor has a new police chief. Jason Belair transitions from acting chief to the official top cop. And a Windsor man knew it was time to duel, and he came out on top as international Yu-Gi-Oh champ. We begin tonight with the emergency shelter housing people from an evacuated downtown Windsor apartment building. It is now set to close. The city previously told CBC News that the shelter would be available for as long as it was needed, but now residents are being forced to find an alternative option. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa joins us now live from the emergency shelter at the John Atkinson Memorial Center. Jen, when do residents need to be out of that shelter?
Kat, the city is saying that by Monday, people need to find an alternative place to live. The city's Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Andrew Dare, says that this shelter was only supposed to be a temporary measure for people of 1616 Olette Avenue. He says that many people have already found different living accommodations with family or friends, and that they're helping others to get housed through private landlords. Now, he says that currently there are 40 people staying at this shelter here, and Dare says that he's unaware that there's any other accommodations that'll be set up through the owners of the building or through their property management company.
And Jen, you've been speaking with some of the tenants about this as well. Do they feel like they have enough time to find another place to go?
One resident that I spoke with doesn't think that it is. He's someone that I've been talking to since this all began last week, and he says that residents were really frustrated and caught off guard when they found out today.
A lot of us are still wondering if we got another place to go. I think I got another place to go, but I haven't had my interview at the building right now, and they're springing this on us now, and a lot of us don't know where we're going to go after this.
Now, I've heard that him and his wife have mental health issues, and that this whole situation is really taking a toll on them. I've spoken with shelters here, and they say that they've been asked to be prepared to take on people. A little bit of a reminder now of what's taken place. So residents have been evacuated from this building since Tuesday of last week, and that was after the city deemed this building unsafe, ordered it to be evacuated, saying that it didn't have heat or electricity. But tenants have told me that this building's dealt with other things like mold, bugs, and water leaks. Last week, the project manager told me that it could be at least 8 months before those repairs and renovations are done and before tenants can move back in. Now, despite shelters being told to be prepared, the downtown mission has told me that, it's really been at or near capacity most nights and doesn't know if it would have space for people. CBC News has also not heard from the owners of the building. The City of Windsor tells me that, they're not really aware of any specific timeline for residents to move back in, but that, they say that property management is really working to get those repairs done very quickly. And the city says that their housing services are going to be available to people as well to help shelter them. Katerina.
Thanks for this, Jen. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa live tonight. Police are searching for a suspect they believe shot and killed a man in Windsor last night. It happened near a daycare around 6 o'clock. A 26-year-old man died in hospital. Police say the suspect should be considered armed and dangerous. An investigator says they believe that person remains in the city.
I know because it is an active investigations, search warrants are being drafted. We're looking for judicial authorization to make entry into certain residents throughout the city. At this point, I'm not in a position where I can give that information out where we're currently looking at.
And we'll have all the latest details at cbc.ca/Windsor. The Windsor Police Service has a new chief. Jason Belair is the city's new top cop. The veteran officer had been acting chief for the last 8 months in the lead up to today's announcement. And as Stacey Janzer reports, he's taking over with a promise to make the service more transparent.
On behalf of the board and the City of Windsor, I'm pleased to announce that the search has concluded and that we have selected Jason Belair to serve as the next Chief of Police in the City of Windsor.
Belair has worked with Windsor Police for 27 years, taking over as acting police chief back in April. He's been working as a deputy chief under Pam Mizuno, who retired 2 years before her 5-year contract was up. Belair says he's been humbled and honored by the appointment. As for the future, his focus is on communication and transparency.
We are really going to focus a lot, as I've said, on meaningful collaborations with our community. Our community is going to be involved with our strategies. We're doing that a lot now. We're compiling data through surveys and through community meetings. And we're actually going to translate that into action for communities, for safer communities, and more action by the police. Transparency
with the Special Investigations Unit was part of the former police chief Al Frederick's early promises, while Mizuno wanted to focus on community safety. Belair says by nature, he's a collaborator and a fan of change.
You know, unlike a lot of people maybe in our industry, I do embrace change. I do like the idea of doing things differently or doing things better.
Sandwich Teen Action Group has worked with local police for years. Its executive says it's important for police to know the kids in the community and for the kids to know police can be approachable.
When you can get community groups and young kids, you know, to trust you and respect you, and they see you as people and not just police officers coming, man, it'll go a long way.
Mayor Drew Dilkins is the head of the police board. He says there was an extensive search for the new chief, with a consulting firm seeking out applicants from across the country. Ultimately, Belair's interview, experience, and seeing what he's done got him the job.
I think there was widespread comfort around the board that he's the right candidate at this time, and we have full confidence in him and his ability to serve in the top role for the Windsor Police Service.
Aldo DiCarlo and Reno Bordelin were part of the decision for the new chief on November 14th. Both have since left the police board. Belair has been appointed for a 5-year term starting Thursday. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, Windsor.
An Ontario court has struck down Bill 124, a law that limited wages for public sector workers. For more on this, let's go live now to Dale Manukduk outside Queen's Park tonight. Dale, this decision could cost the province more than $8 billion over the next 5 years, so some huge financial consequences for the province moving forward.
Katerina, not just consequences forward, but potentially backwards as well. That $8.4 billion that it could cost the province over 5 years includes potentially $2.1 billion in retroactive payments to workers already affected by the bill. So let's talk about that bill for a second. Bill 124, also known as the Protecting a Sustainable Public Sector for Future Generations Act. It was passed in 2019, limiting wage increases at 1% per year for Ontario public service employees, as well as broader public sector workers. Now, it was meant to be in effect for 3 years while new contracts were being negotiated. The government has said that it was meant to be a time-limited approach to help eliminate the deficit. In a report from the Financial Accountability Office in September, it said that the law could save the government $10 billion.
And Dale, what was the court's reasoning for this decision?
Well, Justice Marcus Conan said in his decision that the law infringes on the applicant's rights to freedom of association and collective bargaining in a manner that he called substantial interference. As part of that decision, he says that the province did not explain why it was necessary to infringe on constitutional rights in order to impose wage restrictions, while at the same time providing tax cuts and a license plate sticker refund that amounted to 10 times the amount of savings of Bill 124. Now, this all comes on the heels of the province rescinding Bill 28, which legislated a contract on 55,000 education workers and made it illegal to strike. Here's what the president of the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association had to say about both.
I think that it points to the fact that, contrary to what they say, they are not worker friendly as a government. And they are very quick to restrict things like free collective bargaining. And it's just a pattern of actions that show exactly what it is they're about.
Katarina, unions all across the province are taking a victory lap. QP Ontario said that it was clear from the beginning that this law was unconstitutional and a breach of charter rights. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation also chiming in, saying that this validates workers' rights to free and fair bargaining. We have reached out to the province, Katarina. We got a short statement from the Attorney General's office. A spokesperson says that it does intend to appeal.
Really appreciate this, Dale. That's CBC's Dale Manuktuk live outside Queen's Park tonight. The Ontario government has spent billions less than expected in the first half of the fiscal year. That's according to the province's Financial Accountability Office. In its latest report, the FAO says the Ford government spent $850 million less than expected on healthcare. Education spending so far has come in at about $400 million less than expected. Overall, the government spent $3.5 billion less than anticipated in the first half of the fiscal year. And sticking with spending, the price of lettuce is skyrocketing. TJ Deere now on the problems that's creating for some local restaurants.
Heads of lettuce are becoming more expensive for Charlie Kyriazakos and his staff.
Last week we pay up to $160 for a case of 24, when you used to pay like $30. So 5 times, more than 5 times.
The lettuce used at Nick the Greek usually comes from Florida, but natural disasters have forced their supplier to look elsewhere. California used to supply their lettuce, but even that option is not possible due to drought and disease. Supply from Arizona is expected to fill the gap. It's not just sit-down restaurants that are struggling. Fast food outlets like Super Salads in Devonshire Mall are also struggling with high lettuce prices.
Wholesale is where we normally get romaine and iceberg, but right now at those prices, $165, $155, we've had to go elsewhere. And you know what? It's unfortunate because we buy so much product from there, and there's no breaks for us small businesses.
Neither Nick the Greek or Super Salads are using alternate options. They say taking lettuce away means removing the authenticity of some of their food. Nick the Greek has kept prices steady, while Super Salads is now charging a little more. Although lettuce has grown locally, it's not the kind that restaurants typically purchase.
Those are mostly what they call hydro lettuces. Most commonly, you'll see them in like clamshells or doubled up with a root ball still intact. But there are some other ones as well. They're usually leafy ones. They're not the iceberg and romaine lettuces that people are most common.
Zabraki says that while local production of lettuce could increase, it won't cut into the short-term problem. He says even if local production tripled, it would be a speck compared to foreign quantities imported, and that it would take 5 to 7 years to satisfy the demand. TJ Deere, CBC News, Windsor.
Today is Giving Tuesday. It's a global generosity movement that was marked at the Windsor Mosque today. The Windsor Islamic Association kicked off its annual drive called Keep Us Warm. It helps get brand new winter essentials to those in need.
It's basically a program for us to provide brand new winter clothes and items to people in need all over Canada, but especially here in Windsor, Ontario. All of the materials that you see here are going to community resource centers such as the Hiatus House. Part of the event today is to invite other organizations here and share these items with them, but another part is to engage in a discussion and find out how we can share more resources together and how we can help one another out for the betterment of our community.
We've been doing the Winter Kits program for the last 6 years nationwide, and so we usually partner up with different organizations in cities across Canada. So this year we'll be doing this in 25 cities, including right here in Windsor. And so we've partnered with the WIA. Basically, we've asked them like what their need is. So they've asked us for 600 kits. We have some hats, gloves, scarf. We also have some warm socks, some hygiene items like shampoo, conditioner, some toothpaste, toothbrush, lotion, as well as we have some gift cards so that, you know, if there's an item that we haven't provided for you, you can go and purchase it as well. We also have some laundry detergent, a warm blanket, and then just a reusable container. You know, if you ever go somewhere and you need food or something, people don't have a place to storage. So we have a reusable container as well that we provided everybody.
And there are more ways to help. CBC Windsor has officially kicked off our Sounds of the Season campaign, where we will collect food and donations for local area food banks. The Windsor Mosque will have a donation bin collecting items to help us out as well. And we'll be holding a special Windsor morning show on December 15th, and you're invited to come watch us live here at our studio. There will be live musical guests, some prize giveaways, and much more. So mark the date on your calendars, December 15th. Come pay us a visit. And if you can bring some non-perishables that we can add to our donation bin, we would appreciate that. And for more information, you can always keep an eye out on cbc.ca/Windsor. Let's turn now to something a little bit different, to a card game where players use monsters to attack your life points. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still popular now, even though it came out about 2 decades ago. One Windsor man has gotten so good at one style of the game that he's ranked #1 in the world. Our Jason Vio has more.
I played Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was first 10 years old, when I was younger, obviously, and now I have played, I got back into the game roughly 5 years ago. The accomplishment that I got for this year, based on the 2022 season, which just ended, with the GOAT Format World Championship that happened in October, that was the official end date. The achievement of getting Player of the Year was a very, very prestigious award. Because you're competing against everybody who's ever played GOATs for that year, and the points are accumulated on the year, and they're given out for points on every tournament.
To achieve #1 in the world, it's hard to top. I think some of the growth and the numbers that we're seeing right now is some of the pushback from other players that have played other games and decided to come back to their roots, which would be either Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic or Pokemon.
It's kind of a mix between euchre and chess, and mashed together. That's kind of where Yu-Gi-Oh! is at.
Tell me a little bit about how the game works. Give me a basic rundown.
Okay, sure. So each player starts with 8,000 life points. The idea in most cases is to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. Okay. So monsters will have a numeric value, and on every turn except turn 0 being the opening turn, let's say I go first, that's turn 0, monsters are allowed to attack. Everybody has a battle phase. It's so competitive and there's so much skill involved, and I like that we're competing against other people who are in their 20s, and the tournament started really picking up in 2022, so I was always playing online. You can do that in the comfort of your home, using a variety of dueling simulator softwares against people worldwide. Next year, 2023, I have plans, hopefully maybe even going to Italy and competing over there.
You're going to have to hold on to your hats tomorrow because it's going to be a windy Wednesday. Colette Kennedy will have your weather forecast coming right up. Colette Kennedy is here now for a look at our weather forecast. And Colette, it's about to get really, really windy.
Yes. You know, we have this system that's going to be pushing through, and as it does, it's really wound up tightly atmospherically, and that is going to be driving our winds. But that's one component. Then we also have rain, and in some cases, we'll get into some snow squalls. Now, not so much will we be dealing with that. I mean, there's a chance some of them with a westerly breeze can make their way across from Lake Michigan. We know that can happen, and as the wind shifts coming off of Lake Huron, but more so if you're doing any traveling, to be aware that later tomorrow, that's really going to be the setup. Look at the current temperatures. Not likely to be the daytime high because, okay, we may be steady towards midnight, but actually quite possible this pops up a little bit more, and that's when we'd be reaching our daytime highs as they'll continue to come up towards tomorrow morning. So the forecast winds of southeasterly flow that we're contending with, but then they will begin to move around southerly, not for very long, and then kick around to the west to southwest. But the wind gusts at times 70, perhaps even exceeding 80 kilometers an hour. That's why this special weather statement has been issued by Environment Canada. A few areas in the province into a wind warning, but that's over towards Niagara region and over towards Prince Edward County into eastern Ontario. So again, you'd really have to be doing some traveling overnight tonight to get into those, but still strong enough winds. Now the showers, light in nature at first on our doorstep. Those will move in later on this evening, but then we'll see some more organized rain coming through in the overnight hours. So if you're not out and about or don't need to be, you may just hear it on the rooftop. That moves through, and by 6 a.m., that's past, so the morning commute should be dry, but then you see, okay, maybe some sunny breaks, but you also see the snow squalls beginning to set up, and so a few flurries in the skies, certainly possible. I do want to leave you with the improvement, though, that we'll get into in terms of Thursday. The winds could still be strong Wednesday night. Thursday, they'll be backing off, but also we get some sun mixing in here. In terms of the rainfall amounts, nothing to write home about, 5 to 10 millimeters. It'll be a little heavier a bit further east. So the temperatures coming up tonight, yep, chance of a thunderstorm even embedded in here, and then they'll be falling tomorrow. So it's really short-lived, Kat. We get this warm air, but it comes with rain, it comes with wind, it's in the morning and overnight. What are you going to do?
A roller coaster, up and down, up and down. That's what it's been for weeks, it feels like.
Yes, yes. And it's like all packed into one day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we will have the latest on how Canada's doing at the World Cup. Stay with us. Welcome back. Canada will not move on at the World Cup, but what a ride it has been. Soccer superstar Alphonso Davies spoke to the media in Qatar today about the historic goal he scored against Croatia on Sunday, the first ever by a Canadian player at a FIFA Men's World Cup. Thomas Daigle has more on what Davies had to say.
Well, Alphonso Davies says his mother cried when she saw him in person score Canada's first ever goal at a Men's World Cup. He said, coming from a refugee camp, moving to Canada, and ultimately performing at this level on the biggest stage for men's soccer in the world, well, it moved his mother to tears. He also spoke about that missed penalty kick in Canada's Game 1 against Belgium. He said he didn't lose any sleep on it. Of course, he did replay that moment in his mind several times, but he said it didn't last long because, as he's saying now, it's always a 50-50 chance when it comes to a penalty kick, and he doesn't want to dwell on it. Ultimately, he says he's having a great time here at the World Cup, still pinching himself, and he says Team Canada will go out Thursday and face Morocco as if it is their first game with just as much to win or lose.
The motivation is there, playing, just being at the World Cup is motivation enough for this team. And each and every time we step on the pitch, we bring our motivation, we bring our fight to every game. Knowing that we're not making it to the next round, that's motivation to us to at least go out there and try to get something from this game. And knowing Morocco needs to win the game to move on, and we're not going to make it easy. We're going to go out there like it's the first game of the tournament, and play as hard and as strong as possible.
Well, this was the first time Davies came out and spoke to the assembled Canadian media here at Canada's base camp in Salal outside Doha. He was asked why it took him so long to come speak to the media and by extension to the Canadian public 48 hours after he scored that historic goal. He said, yes, it was a historic moment, but ultimately the team lost the match. And he didn't want to dwell so much on that goal, didn't want all the focus on the goal. He knew the team was effectively in mourning, and he said he felt devastated after that loss, and that's where his mind was after Sunday's game against Croatia. Now he is focused on Thursday's match against Morocco, and even already talking about the success he anticipates Canada will have in 2026 when the World Cup is co-hosted by Canada. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Salal, Qatar.
As you heard there's still one more game for the men's team. That's on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time against Morocco. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. And you can also find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find all of our information about Sounds of the Season on our website as well. Everything about how to donate and how to share your stories with us as well. Thanks for watching and have a great night.